The movie starts with the main characters gathering for what seems to be an important event in their lives. The scene opens with a group of individuals hurriedly preparing, emphasizing urgency and purpose as they head towards a class or meeting. Among them, Nikki and Bear share a moment that hints at deeper emotions and past connections. As Nikki struggles to articulate her feelings while admitting she thinks about Bear constantly, despite trying not to, their conversation reveals a history marked by Nikki's kindness towards Bear when he first moved, and the bond they formed after losing someone close. Their shared grief, bringing them closer yet creating an emotional barrier that Nikki fears will push Bear away if she acts on her true feelings. Nikki nervously confides in Bear, admitting her deep feelings for him but stopping short of fully expressing herself due to fear and past experiences. The moment is charged with emotion as Nikki struggles with vulnerability, leading to an awkward and cringeworthy confession that leaves both parties uncomfortable and questioning the dynamics between them. Nikki feels physically ill after her vulnerable confession, overwhelmed by the intensity of exposing her true feelings to Bear. Her nausea underscores the depth of her emotional vulnerability and the risk she just took in trusting him with her innermost thoughts. Bear's advice about not getting too sentimental with Sarah seems irrelevant in the moment, but hints at his own struggles with intimacy and trust, mirroring Nikki's fears and discomfort. The scene captures a poignant disconnect between their emotional needs and practical suggestions, leaving both characters grappling with unresolved feelings and past traumas. Nikki's discomfort escalates as she struggles to maintain composure during an awkward exchange with Bear, her nervousness leading her to offer him the opportunity to leave if he feels compelled to go. Her sincere apology for making him feel obligated underscores her genuine concern and emotional vulnerability, while Bear's reassuring words attempt to ease the tension but fall short of fully addressing the complex emotions simmering beneath their surface interaction. Nikki and Bear share an awkward moment after their emotional conversation, with Nikki feeling embarrassed about her vulnerability and struggling to maintain composure. Bear realizes Sarah has been manipulating those around him, causing him to question his trust in others. He considers teasing Nikki about her past nickname, Freaky Nikki, but decides against it due to her sensitivity on the matter. The tension escalates as they discuss whether he should invite Nikki out for a drink, acknowledging that while she often invites him, now is not the time to bring up such a suggestion during trivia night. Nikki nervously confronts Bear about the timing of his potential relationship proposal, emphasizing that trivia night is sacred to him and shouldn't be tainted with such a serious request. Bear realizes he must wait for the right moment, repeating, "All you have is time," as guidance from Nikki. Meanwhile, Sandy struggles with her health regimen, discussing appetite suppressants that don't work as intended. Morgan joins Mara L in lamenting over unwanted clothing items, expressing envy towards someone who managed to lose weight successfully. Bear feels conflicted about skipping trivia night, but ultimately decides not to attend, disappointing his team and leaving them without his crucial brainpower for their weekly competition against the Ragtags. Nikki nervously informs Bear that she is putting in her 2 weeks at work, causing him to realize the urgency of their situation and question whether they have enough time left together. As Bear contemplates this news, he accidentally drops his cherished crystal necklace down the drain, adding another layer of stress and frustration to an already tense evening. The scene then shifts as Nikki seeks assistance from a coworker for a replacement crystal necklace. Learning about the unique properties each stone possesses, such as amethyst for calmness and clarity, and citrine for positive energy or good vibes. Meanwhile, Sarah's manipulative behavior continues to impact Bear's interactions with others, including his trivia night team, who notice his absence and feel disappointed by his decision to skip their weekly competition against the Ragtags. On the phone, an employee discusses the popularity and controversy surrounding crystal necklaces, revealing that while some customers complain about them being scams or causing negative outcomes, others collect them without opening. The conversation shifts to a customer's misuse of guitar strings at Guitar Center, highlighting issues with expectations versus reality in product use, which mirrors Bear's own frustrations as he grapples with Sarah's manipulative actions and the stress of losing his crystal necklace. Bear and Nikki have a tense conversation about his upcoming departure for tattoo school, revealing the stress of uncertain futures as Nikki's application to Luther remains unresolved. The scene shifts to a chaotic trivia night where Bear's team is distracted by Sarah's manipulative behavior, leading to confusion and missed opportunities during their rounds. Meanwhile, Sandy struggles with her health regimen, feeling defeated by appetite suppressants that aren't working. As the evening progresses, Bear accidentally drops his cherished crystal necklace down the drain, adding another layer of frustration to an already stressful night. Nikki seeks help from a coworker to find a replacement necklace, learning about the unique properties of different stones and their potential benefits. The atmosphere thickens as Sarah's manipulative actions continue to disrupt Bear's interactions with others, causing further disappointment among his trivia night teammates who feel let down by his absence and decision to skip their weekly competition against the Ragtags. Shockwaves through the group as Ian reveals Sandy's unexpected death, leaving Bear visibly shaken and Nikki emotionally drained from her long day. Despite this somber news, Sarah insists on heading to Greedo's for karaoke, frustrating Bear, who declines the invitation and opts to leave early. Nikki reluctantly agrees to go along with the group, but secretly hopes someone will take her home, eventually convincing Ian to drop her off on their way to the next bar. As tensions rise due to Sarah's relentless push for more drinking and singing, Bear's patience wears thin, culminating in his decision to head straight home amidst the chaos and disappointment of the night. Sarah goads the group to head to Greedo's for more drinking and singing, her relentless enthusiasm pushing Bear's patience to its limit as he decides to leave early amidst the chaos and disappointment of the night. Nikki confides in Ian, asking him to take her home instead of accompanying the others to the next bar. Meanwhile, Sarah continues to manipulate situations around her, leaving Bear questioning his trust in everyone involved, especially after overhearing that she has been asking about him all day. The tension escalates as Bear and Nikki share a moment where they both admit their discomfort with recent events and express their need for significant life changes, highlighting the emotional turmoil each is experiencing. As the night progresses, Bear and Nikki share a tender moment recalling a fond memory from Mr. Lando's class, where Nikki had forgotten her mouthpiece, and Bear lent his to her. The atmosphere thickens when Sarah reminds Bear of their precarious friendship, leaving him feeling unsettled and questioning his trust in her. Moments later, an awkward exchange ensues as Saraba playfully teases Nikki about a nickname, inadvertently causing tension between them. A significant moment occurs when Willa reveals a heartfelt wish she made for Nikki's happiness, highlighting the depth of their bond. As Bear tries to leave, he encounters Nikki again, who has just lost her cat, and offers him an invitation inside that feels both genuine and comforting amidst the chaos of the night. Nikki, distraught over losing her cat and feeling emotionally vulnerable, invites Bear inside to talk about the loss while offering drinks as comfort. Initially hesitant due to her erratic behavior, Bear agrees when she reveals her father is dying, making her need for support clear. The situation intensifies as Nikki's usual composed demeanor gives way to confusion and distress, leaving Bear concerned yet committed to helping her through this difficult moment. Nikki leads Bear to her grandmother's house, explaining it holds sentimental value as she insists on keeping it, despite its size being larger than her previous place. The home carries a distinctive scent reminiscent of Nikki herself, creating an immediate sense of familiarity and comfort for both characters. Despite her earlier erratic behavior, Nikki offers Bear everything from water to towels, emphasizing her genuine desire to help him feel at ease in her space. She sincerely apologizes for any oddities she displayed earlier, but Bear dismisses the apology, reassuring her that she can take as much time as needed. The night takes an unexpected turn when Nikki impulsively invites Bear to sleep with her, citing her fear of being trapped by intrusive thoughts and insomnia. Moved by her vulnerability, Bear agrees, leading to a tender moment where he confirms his emotional support for her, particularly in light of her recent loss and the impending death of her father. Nikki's initial playful teasing of Sarah's nickname suddenly spirals into an uncharacteristic outburst of confusion and distress, her repeated expletives and questioning revealing a deep-seated anxiety or panic that unsettles Bear. This abrupt shift highlights the fragility of Nikki's emotional state and the unpredictable nature of her reactions to stress, underscoring the strain caused by her father's impending death and recent losses. The scene's intensity escalates as Bear grapples with understanding and supporting Nikki through this chaotic moment, their mutual concern deepening the bond between them despite the uncertainty. Nikki's sudden outburst of confusion and distress catches Bear off guard, her words slurring together in a mix of panic and disbelief as she questions the recent events between them, her fear and anxiety palpable. The intensity of her reaction underscores the profound impact of her father's impending death on her emotional stability, revealing layers of vulnerability beneath her usual composed demeanor. As Nikki struggles to make sense of her erratic behavior, Bear remains steadfast in his support, attempting to reassure her with gentle words and physical comfort, deepening their bond amidst the chaos. Nikki's earlier erratic behavior leaves Bear confused and concerned as she apologizes repeatedly, her words slurred with panic and distress. Despite the uncertainty, Bear reassures her that there's no need for apologies, emphasizing his support and understanding of her emotional turmoil. The intensity of the moment underscores Nikki's vulnerability and the significant impact her father's impending death has on her mental state, deepening the emotional connection between them as they navigate through this chaotic night together. Her words are punctuated with an expletive, revealing the depth of her panic and disorientation. This unexpected reaction underscores the toll that recent losses and stress have taken on her mental state, particularly in light of her father's impending death. The intensity of this moment deepens their emotional connection as they navigate the chaos together, highlighting the fragility of Nikki's composure under such heavy burdens. Bear, initially caught off guard by her erratic behavior, soon realizes that Nikki is grappling with deep-seated fears and anxieties stemming from recent losses and her father's impending death. As Nikki pleads for comfort and support, asking Bear to lay with her, their bond deepens in the face of chaos, highlighting the fragility of her mental state and the profound impact of her circumstances on her emotional stability. Nikki's erratic behavior continues as she struggles to make sense of the situation. Her words slurred and filled with panic. She questions Bear about the keyboard plug, her confusion escalating into frustration when she hears a name that triggers another wave of distress. As she pleads for Bear to relax and guide her through the chaos, their bond deepens in the face of Nikki's overwhelming anxiety and fear, highlighting the intense emotional strain they both endure. Nikki's confusion and panic reach a fever pitch as she blurts out expletives, bewildered by the events of the previous night, while Bear tries to soothe her with reassurances, only for her to question if he had any involvement with Nikki, adding another layer of anxiety and mistrust to their already tense situation. Bear confides in a colleague about his interactions with Nikki, revealing that she has been acting bizarrely and experiencing panic attacks, while also hinting at deeper emotional turmoil due to her father's cancer diagnosis. The conversation intensifies when the colleague questions whether Nikki is on drugs or undergoing a mental breakdown, highlighting their shared concern and confusion over her erratic behavior. Bear decides to confront Nikki directly, but his attempts are met with more chaos as she continues to oscillate between moments of lucidity and extreme distress, leaving him unsure how to provide support while maintaining professional boundaries. The tension escalates further when Nikki blurts out expletives and expresses fear about recent events, deepening the emotional strain for both characters as they struggle to navigate this unstable situation together. Nikki, still reeling from the previous night's events and her father's illness, tries to explain her actions to Bear, revealing that she had taken MDMA during their encounter with Nikki. Her admission of being under the influence and her confusion about what transpired leaves Bear questioning whether he took advantage of her vulnerable state. Despite this, Nikki reassures him, emphasizing her feelings for him and expressing a desire for honesty in their relationship. The conversation takes an unexpected turn when Nikki tentatively asks if Bear has romantic feelings for her, leading to a moment of tension and vulnerability as they both grapple with the implications of their emotional connection amidst the chaos of Nikki's drug-induced night. Nikki, still disoriented and emotionally strained from the previous night's events involving Nikki and her father's worsening condition, awkwardly recounts to Bear in her room how she had changed sheets after their encounter. The conversation quickly shifts as Nikki's confusion about her own actions leads her to mistakenly repeat Bear's words back to him, creating a moment of uncertainty and tension between them. When Bear asks about her father, Nikki deflects the question, highlighting her current inability to deal with personal issues. Their dialogue takes an unexpected turn when Bear reveals that he has previously called Nikki a closed book, prompting her to express a desire for openness in their relationship despite her usual private nature. The conversation lightens briefly as they joke about hypothetical scenarios involving Nikki as a food critic, but the underlying emotional strain remains palpable beneath the surface. Bear, trying to lighten the mood after an emotionally fraught conversation with Nikki, playfully teases her about being his personal food critic as she critiques some stale bread they are sharing. The moment of levity is brief when a call from Ian interrupts, prompting Bear to leave briefly and return with unsettling news. Nikki had lied about her father's illness, leading Ian to suspect that Sarah might be manipulating the situation for unknown reasons. This revelation adds another layer of complexity to Bear's relationship dynamics as he grapples with trust issues involving both Sarah and Nikki. Bear and Nikki's conversation takes an uneasy turn when Bear reveals that Nikki had lied about her father's illness, causing tension to escalate as both grapple with the implications of Sarah potentially manipulating the situation for unknown reasons. This revelation forces Bear to question his trust in those around him, adding another layer of complexity to his relationships, especially with Nikki, who is still reeling from the emotional turmoil of the previous night. Bear, visibly concerned about Nikki's well-being, presents her with a tiger's eye stone that once belonged to his mother, symbolizing confidence and willpower, hoping it might cheer her up as they joke about her becoming a food critic. Moments later, the mood shifts abruptly when Ian calls Bear away. Upon returning, Bear reveals that Nikki had lied about her father's illness, raising suspicions of Sarah's manipulation and causing Nikki to question the sincerity of their shared moments. Bear and Nikki share an intimate moment, with Bear admiring Nikki as she sleeps in his sweater, the scent of him enveloping her. When Nikki wakes up, she expresses her insecurities about their relationship, feeling that her love for Bear is not reciprocated equally. This vulnerability prompts a heartfelt conversation where Nikki struggles to articulate her feelings and asks Bear to return to bed with her, but he hesitates, still grappling with his own emotions from the night before. The tension escalates as Nikki's fears of being unloved become palpable, adding another layer of complexity to their already fragile emotional connection. Nikki's vulnerability peaks as she wakes up, her insecurities about Bear's feelings for her spilling out in fragmented questions like, "Why don't you love me?" and "What do you want me to do?" Her emotional turmoil deepens when she seeks reassurance from him, only to be met with hesitation. Meanwhile, the atmosphere thickens as Nikki finds herself questioning their relationship dynamics further, even after Bear's attempt to comfort her with a tiger's eye stone meant to symbolize strength and confidence. The scene transitions abruptly to morning, where Nikki notices her newly cut hair, a stark reminder of unresolved tension between them. Despite the awkwardness, Bear has prepared her a lunch as an effort to mend their connection, but the conversation remains stilted and unfulfilled, leaving both characters grappling with the lingering doubts from the night before. After a night filled with tension and unresolved emotions, Nikki wakes up to find Bear sitting beside her, visibly concerned about the previous night's events. She apologizes for her behavior, admitting she had a terrifying dream that led to the strange actions between them. Despite the awkwardness, Bear reassures her of his love, asking her not to repeat any unusual behavior and promising to keep their relationship stable moving forward. The conversation leaves both feeling a mix of relief and lingering uncertainty, as Nikki expresses how much she wishes they could see each other, despite her day off, highlighting the emotional complexity between them. Nikki ends a call frustrated with people's lack of patience and questions an inside joke Bear references regarding Ian's upcoming event. Sarah confronts Bear about his relationship with Nikki, suggesting she friend-zoned him before they started dating, which upsets Bear. Despite denying any game-playing on Nikki's part, Sarah expresses concern over the sudden intensity of their relationship, warning Bear not to get hurt. The tension escalates when Sarah accuses Bear of having a problem with Nikki, leaving Bear feeling defensive and uneasy about Ian potentially spreading rumors. After Nikki's emotional night, Bear faces mounting tension as Sarah confronts him about his relationship with Nikki, accusing her of friend-zoning him before they started dating and questioning the sudden intensity between them. Sarah warns Bear not to get hurt, leaving him defensive and worried that Ian might spread rumors. The atmosphere thickens further when an inside joke involving Ian's upcoming event becomes a point of contention, forcing Bear to question his trust in Nikki as he grapples with conflicting emotions. And Wando Ika. Si halda pornt, Hurestion, and Wando Ika. Udska Urat, Konamat, and Wandoia, and Wanabor. Udska Urat, and Didabond, Udska Urat, and Mundo, Udgoiand. It Forto, where. The atmosphere thickens further when an inside joke involving Ian's upcoming event becomes a point of contention, forcing Bear to question his trust in Nikki as he grapples with conflicting emotions and past uncertainties. Sarah confronts Bear about Nikki, accusing her of lying about having cancer and altering details about her father's health, while also questioning why she's been sleeping over frequently. This triggers a defensive reaction from Bear as he tries to deflect the conversation back to Ian's upcoming party, which further fuels Sarah's suspicion that there might be something hidden or manipulative in Nikki's behavior. Bear faces Sarah's accusations head-on, defending his relationship with Nikki despite her concerns about the sudden closeness and past uncertainties. Sarah's harsh words trigger a defensive response from Bear, who tries to explain that he sees sincerity in Nikki's actions, but struggles against the mounting suspicions from those around him. Bear, feeling cornered and defensive during his conversation with Sarah, passionately argues against her accusations that he is ruining something good in his relationship with Nikki. He points out the negative impact of spreading doubts about their relationship to others, referencing Carter's involvement, and emphasizes how damaging it looks for those around them to question the sincerity and health of their bond. The tension escalates when Sarah texts him expressing her discomfort with the situation and questioning the sincerity of his relationship with Nikki. Frustrated and defensive, Bear argues that if their bond is genuine, Sarah should have no issues with him spending time away from her. Meanwhile, Nikki's behavior becomes increasingly erratic. She cancels plans abruptly while insisting she has no problem with Bear's night out with Ian. This leads Bear to question the authenticity of their relationship as he grapples with mounting suspicions and conflicting emotions. Adding another layer of complexity, Bear reaches out to One Wish Willow, a mysterious service that grants wishes, seeking clarification on whether his love for Nikki is real or merely an illusion created by external circumstances. The interaction leaves him more confused than reassured, deepening his internal struggle over trust and the true nature of his connection with Nikki. Bear finds himself at odds with One Wish Willow, an enigmatic service known for granting wishes but now informing him that there's no recourse if he wants to cancel a previously made request, leaving him feeling trapped and frustrated. The revelation of the irrevocable nature of his wish deepens Bear's moral quandary about his obligation towards Nikki, especially as she exhibits increasingly erratic behavior, such as canceling plans and showing signs of distress. In a moment of desperation, Derek intervenes, suggesting that Bear talk to Nikki directly to understand her state of mind, but the awkward encounter leaves Bear more confused and concerned than before, realizing the complexity and fragility of their relationship amidst mutual misunderstandings and fears. Nikki, disheveled and clearly distressed, greets Bear upon his return home, her demeanor suggesting she's been through an ordeal. She awkwardly suggests they shower together, but retreats to clean up messes of her own making, hinting at deeper issues such as cooking their pet cat. When Bear mentions a planned boys' night with Ian, Nikki's reaction is initially positive, but quickly turns defensive and erratic when he reveals Sarah's involvement. This triggers a heated argument where Nikki accuses Sarah of manipulating Bear into inviting her along, exacerbating existing tensions between the three friends. Nikki's emotional breakdown further complicates their relationship, leaving Bear questioning the authenticity of his bond with both Nikki and Sarah, as mutual distrust and fear intensify. As the tension escalates during their drinking game, one friend taunts another with ominous warnings of impending defeat, setting a tone of competition and camaraderie laced with underlying aggression. The challenge intensifies as each participant selects someone to drink alongside for the next 3 rounds, deepening the stakes and personal connections within this volatile dynamic. The atmosphere thickens when one player vows unwavering support despite mounting odds, highlighting the complex bonds and mutual dependencies that drive their interactions. The atmosphere thickens as Annie and Baron switch seats, with Baron reluctantly sitting next to the increasingly unstable Nikki, setting off a chain of awkward and charged interactions. During their drinking game, the air is filled with tension and the distant call of a nightbird, highlighting the volatile mood. When Nikki addresses Hansel directly, her words are unsettling, suggesting a dark and intimate relationship rooted in manipulation and fear, hinting at deeper psychological issues and past traumas that have twisted their bond into something dangerous and unhealthy. Her declaration that she will compel him to be inside her tonight, using threats of violence as leverage, underscores the toxic nature of their connection, leaving no doubt about the fragile state of Nikki's mental health and the precarious dynamics within this group of friends. Nikki's emotional turmoil reaches its peak as she drunkenly confesses her intense yet unhealthy love for Bear, revealing the depth of her psychological distress and manipulative tendencies. Her erratic behavior escalates when she aggressively accuses Sarah of manipulating their friend group, causing a tense standoff among the friends. As Nikki's mental state deteriorates further, she becomes physically aggressive, prompting Bear to intervene and attempt to protect her while also urging her to seek medical help at the hospital. Nikki's erratic behavior reaches a boiling point as she aggressively demands Bear to get up, her words laced with anger and desperation. Despite her volatile outburst, Bear tries to retreat to the bathroom for some respite, but Nikki's relentless questioning about his intentions leaves him trapped in an emotional turmoil. The tension escalates further when Nikki accuses Bear of abandoning her, her fear palpable as she clings onto him desperately. Her erratic confession of nervousness and self-harm highlights her deep-seated anxiety and the overwhelming strain on her mental health, leaving everyone around her both frightened and helpless. Bear notices the physical signs of Nikki's self-harm and expresses his concern, leading to an emotionally charged moment where he tries to reassure her of her beauty and normalcy despite her deteriorating mental state. Nikki's confusion and fear become evident as she repeatedly apologizes and clings to Bear for reassurance, desperately seeking confirmation that she is still loved and valued by him. The conversation takes a bizarre turn when Nikki begins questioning whether Bear likes her, revealing the depth of her insecurity and vulnerability amidst her psychological distress. Her erratic behavior escalates further as she blurts out her nickname, Freaky Nikki, highlighting the profound impact of her mental health struggles on her self-perception and relationships with others. Bear retreats to the bathroom, seeking a moment of respite from Nikki's escalating emotional distress, but her relentless questioning and fear of abandonment pull him back into an emotionally charged confrontation. As Nikki clings desperately to Bear, demanding reassurance of his love and questioning whether he still likes her, the atmosphere thickens with tension and vulnerability. Her confession of nervousness and self-harm underscores the severity of her mental health struggles, leaving Bear both concerned and helpless as he tries to reassure her of her worth despite her unstable condition. Nikki's erratic behavior intensifies as she desperately clings to Bear, her words reflecting a deep-seated fear of abandonment and an overwhelming sense of self-doubt. She repeatedly apologizes while seeking assurance that Bear still loves her despite her deteriorating mental state. As the tension escalates, Bear retreats to the bathroom for respite, but is drawn back into Nikki's emotional turmoil when she continues to question his feelings and reassurance. The atmosphere thickens with vulnerability and fear, as Nikki begins describing a surreal scenario where she feels increasingly isolated and cold, symbolizing her emotional detachment from reality and her struggle to hold on to her connection with Bear. Her monologue highlights the profound impact of her mental health struggles on both herself and those around her, leaving everyone profoundly affected by the intensity of her distress. When Bear retreats to the bathroom for a moment of respite, the tension in the room thickens dramatically. The atmosphere becomes increasingly charged as she questions whether Bear still likes her despite her deteriorating condition, pulling him back into an emotionally draining confrontation. Nikki clings to Bear, begging him for reassurance and expressing her deep-seated fears of abandonment and self-doubt as she struggles with severe mental health issues. The conversation takes a somber turn when Sarah reveals that Nikki's father is terminally ill, explaining the source of Nikki's emotional turmoil and distress. This revelation adds another layer to Nikki's unstable condition, highlighting the complexity of her situation. Bear shows concern but remains steadfast in his support for Nikki despite Sarah's worries about the imbalance in their relationship and the potential exploitation of his loyalty. Meanwhile, Ian's letter from Luther arrives, adding a new element of urgency as Bear contemplates opening it with Nikki. Though he hesitates due to personal promises made to Ian, the scene ends with Bear feeling torn between supporting Nikki and honoring his commitments to others, emphasizing the emotional strain and moral dilemmas he faces. Sarah confronts Bear with shocking revelations about Nikki's past relationship with Barry and Ian, casting doubt on Nikki's intentions and suggesting she might be using their relationship as a way to hurt Barry. This confession deeply affects Bear's perception of trust and loyalty, forcing him to question his commitment to Nikki amidst the emotional turmoil surrounding her mental health struggles and her father's terminal illness. As tensions rise, Nikki's erratic behavior becomes more pronounced, pulling Bear into an increasingly complex web of emotional dependency and moral dilemmas, leaving both feeling overwhelmed and uncertain about their future together. Sarah confronts Nikki, accusing her of manipulation and using Bear to hurt Barry, deepening the emotional turmoil for Bear, who struggles with trust and loyalty. As tensions rise, Sarah's erratic behavior becomes more pronounced, culminating in a bizarre exchange where she demands to be rid of someone or something, leaving others confused and disturbed. A man enters the scene looking for One-Wish willows, but is met with hostility and confusion, further adding to the surreal and unsettling atmosphere. Bear confronts Sarah about her actions, questioning how she could manipulate the situation to turn others against Nikki, leading to an intense and emotionally charged exchange where Sarah's motives are further called into question, adding layers of distrust and confusion to the already tense atmosphere. Nikki becomes increasingly distressed, expressing regret and fear over something she has done or witnessed, causing others around her to become concerned about her mental state. Her erratic behavior intensifies as she pleads for a reversal of whatever situation she finds herself in, revealing the depth of her distress and the potentially damaging consequences of her actions. This outburst further strains the already tense relationships between Nikki, Bear, and Sarah, adding layers of mystery and urgency to their interactions. Nikki frantically pleads to reverse an irreversible wish she made, her desperation palpable as she realizes the gravity of her actions. A man enters the scene looking for One-Wish willow, but is met with confusion and hostility from those around him, further amplifying the surreal and unsettling atmosphere. Sarah's previous manipulations come to light when Bear confronts her about turning others against Nikki, escalating the emotional turmoil and distrust within their group. The revelation of a wish made by someone that directly impacts Nikki's relationship with Barry adds another layer of complexity, leaving everyone questioning the consequences of such powerful desires. As Nikki's distress intensifies, she becomes more erratic, desperately seeking help to undo her actions, highlighting the deepening psychological strain on her and those around her. The man, frustrated and confused, receives repeated texts from Sarah urging him to come over to her place, deepening the mystery and tension surrounding her intentions and the group's strained dynamics. Ian expresses growing confusion and distress over Nikki's sudden affections towards Barry, questioning the reality of recent events as he receives urgent texts from Sarah urging him to visit her. Barry confirms that Nikki made a wish using an ancient piece of wood, causing dramatic changes in her behavior towards him. The revelation intensifies the atmosphere with disbelief and urgency, as Ian struggles to comprehend the bizarre situation unfolding around him. Nikki's desperate outburst reveals the gravity of her situation as she pleads to Ian, confessing that she made an irreversible wish using an ancient piece of wood, which has dramatically altered her behavior in reality. Ian struggles with disbelief but is forced to confront the bizarre circumstances when Sarah urgently texts him, deepening his confusion and distress over Nikki's sudden affections towards Barry. Nikki's frantic request for Ian to reverse her wish by making a new one himself further strains their relationship and adds layers of urgency and emotional turmoil as she becomes increasingly erratic and distressed, highlighting the severe consequences of her actions on everyone around her. Barry fervently wishes for $1 billion, his desperation palpable as he turns to Nikki for help, pleading with her to do anything for him despite her evident distress and confusion. Nikki's deep-seated commitment to Barry is tested when she agrees to follow through with whatever request he has, even as the intensity of their interaction pushes her closer to emotional collapse. The situation escalates further when Barry blurts out his desire for Nikki to love him unconditionally, causing her to retreat in anguish and disbelief. As Nikki's world continues to unravel from the consequences of a wish made on an ancient piece of wood, she finds herself caught between her own desires and the manipulative forces around her, leaving both Ian and Bear increasingly bewildered by the bizarre chain of events unfolding. Barry's desperation reaches its peak as he fervently declares his love for Nikki, despite her initial resistance and outbursts of anger. As tensions rise, Bear unexpectedly arrives, catching Nikki off guard and forcing a confrontation that reveals underlying conflicts and mistrust within their relationships. The scene becomes increasingly volatile when Nikki demands Bear's immediate departure, highlighting the complex web of desires and manipulations that have intertwined their lives. The momentary glimpse into Sarah's influence further complicates the situation, leaving all parties bewildered by the rapid shift in dynamics and unresolved tensions. Nikki is clearly in emotional turmoil, struggling to come to terms with the sudden changes in her relationships and the consequences of her wish. Her distress reaches a boiling point when she confronts Bear, who has inadvertently become entangled in the web of manipulation and confusion surrounding Sarah's influence. The tension escalates as Nikki demands Bear's immediate departure, highlighting the deep-seated mistrust and unresolved conflicts between them. As Bear tries to explain his actions, Nikki's anguish intensifies, revealing her struggle with trust and the reality that everyone around her may not be who they seem. The scene becomes increasingly volatile, pushing all parties involved to question their own desires and the sincerity of those closest to them, leaving the emotional atmosphere thick with uncertainty and betrayal. Nikki's emotional turmoil reaches its peak as she confronts Bear, demanding his immediate departure due to the complex web of manipulation and confusion surrounding Sarah's influence. The moment becomes charged when Bear realizes that Sarah has been manipulating those around him, forcing him to question his own trust and sincerity towards Nikki. Nikki's anguish deepens as she struggles with the reality that everyone may not be who they seem, pushing all parties involved to grapple with their desires and the consequences of past actions. The tension escalates further when Barry fervently declares his love for Nikki despite her resistance, leaving her emotionally exhausted and questioning the sincerity behind his affections. And the movie ends on a dark note,